Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Keith, I watched Moon Knight. It was fantastic. that was
So good, right?
so cool. So cool. I was having such a good time with that. I loved the tone and everything like that on it. I had to get that out first. That I know there's tons of stuff going on around the NBA, but I keep thinking back to Moon Knight. It was a blast.
So different
Yep.
too from anything else Marvel's done in the MCU so far. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait for everybody to see the whole thing. It's really good. I also, before we get into NBA stuff, USA
We're going to the
baby,
World Cup.
we're going
Let's
back.
go.
World Cup, let's do this. I did not know the draw was tomorrow,
Mhm.
April 1st for the groups before we're even done through the playoff stage. They said that's because of the timing and
Mhm.
things got moved around with that. But yeah, let's go. So psyched for the U.S. men's national team that they're back in the World Cup.
Is it going to be time for the draw and then they're going to say just kidding because it's
I
April
hope
Fools?
not. I hope.
That would not be
Oh
good.
man, I'd be livid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Somehow I don't think FIFA would get away with that. I think people would be pretty upset.
I would imagine. I don't know this for sure, but is April Fool's a worldwide thing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I know
Because
my daughter's got all kinds of things planned.
I'm sure other countries would probably not, if they, don't do that. They wouldn't be too happy, but
Yeah. I can't imagine that they'd be overly thrilled with
yes.
that.
Last
Right?
note on that, it's weird that the World Cup's going to be in November to me. It's always been a summer
Yes.
thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Not as big of a deal, but I remember when I was in school still, like, it was a big deal that World Cup was in the summer because it meant I could stay up and watch the games
Yeah.
wherever they were. It's going to be weird that it's in November, but
What is kind of neat though is the games will be on during the day for us. So like we'll have like sports all day long, and
love it.
then leading right into basketball at night and all that stuff. It's gonna compete with the NFL here in this country on at least some of those days because it's November into it. I think it wraps up December 18th. I looked was the final. So, but we'll make plans. USA in the World Cup final a week before Christmas. Let's go.
My wife is going to be so happy. NBA, NFL, and the World Cup on at the same time.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
we should talk. We should talk a little bit about the NBA.
We should. I mean,
It's in the name.
nominally we're an NBA show.
Right. So, the salary cap. Let's start there. Bonus salary cap going up and going up even a little bit more than we thought.
Yep.
So, a little extra spending power around the league.
Yeah, so the league initial projection was 119 million was one of the projections that had been out there. They're now saying that it is going to go up to 121, and now they've come back and said 122 million. That it's going to go up to with a tax line of 147 million. So, so big, I'm sorry, 49 million for the tax line. So this is big. Gives those teams that are going to have cap space a little extra spending power. Teams that are going to be in the tax will get a little bit of a bonus. There's probably going to be a lot of teams in the tax. It's not enough to drastically change things around the league or anything like that. But what it is a very good sign that the NBA is in great shape financially and that they're doing really well. So 122 million. That could even go up slightly more if the playoffs, if series run long and there's long, extra games in the series and rounds and things like that, then we could see this go even higher.
Man, that's exciting. That's exciting. Obviously, there's not a ton of cap space out there this year, but
No, very little.
Usually, this winds up mattering. Like you think 1 million more than what they projected a few weeks ago. How much does that really matter? It will matter for a few teams. We'll see some teams that are able to do some stuff that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Yeah, and remember too, the max salary tiers are tied to the cap, as is the minimum salary, the rookie scale, and all. Whatever percent the cap rises is what percent those rise by as well. So everybody's going to get a little bit more money, which is, in the end, that's great news for everyone involved.
That's always nice. We got some. I don't know if I want to call this good news, but Evan Mobley, he's out at least 3 games, but. I mean, just the fact that it's at least 3 gives you maybe some idea that there's potential he could come back in 4. Now, maybe he doesn't, but that sounds like we're not talking about like a season-ending thing here for him, and maybe he's able to get his legs under him in time for the playoffs, which are quickly approaching.
Yeah, that's the good thing,
Hmm.
right? That it's not longer than 3 games. It looked bad when the injury happened. So that's kind of, that's the downside to it, is that it looked bad, but we'll see. One of those 3 games was last night against the Dallas Mavericks. That the Cavs lost that game. Now they're gonna go play at Atlanta tonight on the second night of a back-to-back. That's kind of a tough game. The Hawks are playing a little bit better. And then they've got Saturday at New York. So those are the 3 that he'll miss. They've only got 6 games left. After that, it's versus Philly, at Orlando, at Brooklyn, and versus Milwaukee. So that is not an easy
Mm-mm.
closing stretch. There's really only one easy one in there. That's the at Orlando one. At that point, we don't know. The Brooklyn game could be for home court in the 7-8
Yep.
game. The way things are shaping up here, so we'll see. The Knicks are obviously, they're going down swinging. They're not giving up. Maybe that'll change when they're officially eliminated. Maybe then they'll transition a different way. But yeah, we'll see. And then of course, there's no way to know what that Milwaukee game will mean on the final day of the season for now. But Cavs are up against it. They're in a tough spot. That loss last night. Let me make sure I get this correct. Yeah, they're now 2 games, 2 full games behind the Bulls and the Raptors for that 5-6. They're tied for 5-6. So two games with only 6 to play. That's not great.
Keith, you mentioned changes in the standings. The Mavs are now the 3 seed in the West. They
Yeah.
bumped the Warriors. They won last night. The Warriors lost. Warriors have lost 4 in a row. The Mavs won 3 in a row, and here we are. Suddenly, you've got a new 3 seed in the Western Conference.
And the Mavs clinched
Hmm.
last
That's
night
right.
too with their win. So we're gonna start seeing clinchers too. I think the Celtics clinch tonight if the Cavs lose. The reason why they don't they clinch ahead of Philly and Milwaukee is the Celtics hold the tiebreaker over those 2 teams. So if it came down to it, but yeah, we're starting to see some stuff clinch. Charlotte clinched a spot in the play-in tournament at a minimum last night as well. So we're getting down to it now.
I guess we should also mention that with the story that we talked about, I believe it was on yesterday's show, Julius Randle has pushed back against the idea that he does want to trade out of New York. I always think this is interesting, though. Like, how much of this is real? How much of it is damage control? Well, you never really
Sure.
know. We'll see. But Randle did put out there that he doesn't want to be traded by the New York Knicks.
Yeah, pretty emphatically too.
Hmm.
He's like, "That's not true. I don't want that." And then he further explained, "Hey, I signed here to try
Hmm.
to change the culture here. I
Right.
want to win. I want to help be a part of bringing a championship to New York." So, but it's March 31st.
Yeah.
We've still gotta get at least 3 months until all this really matters. Well, I guess the draft it could matter at, but roughly 3 months until all this really matters. So let's see if tunes change between now and then.
Obviously a very different situation if he came out and said, yes, I would like to be traded. But still, this is
Sure.
something that you don't just the fact that he said he doesn't want to be traded doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Just something to kind of file away. There was a little bit of smoke here. Maybe it pops back up when we get around the time of the draft. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. He winds up finishing out his entire career in New York. We'll find out what happens. But just kind of file it away
Yeah.
right now. Uh, we've got the Nuggets have not ruled out Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray for the season. I'm holding on to hope,
Yep.
Keith. I'm holding on to hope that
I am
these
too.
guys are able to get back out there and play because I want to see what a full strength Nuggets team can look like. Obviously, chemistry is not going to be perfect, bringing these guys in last minute, but I'm really curious to see what that team can look like come playoff time if they can get those guys back.
Yeah, speaking of moving up in the standings, they moved past
Hmm.
the Jazz. Now they're half game ahead of the Jazz. They are now 3 up on Minnesota, who's in 7. Denver's up in the 5 spot with only 5 to play. So feels pretty good that Denver will be one of those top 6 teams with that. And then we'll see the Jazz are 2.5 up on Minnesota. If the Jazz lose tonight, they're playing the Lakers, as I
Hmm.
know you all know. If they were to lose that game tonight, then that would start to get interesting. Maybe Minnesota could catch them, but if the Jazz win, then they're up 3 games on Minnesota with 5 to play, and that starts to get a little. You need a lot to go your way. Excuse me, if that's going to happen. So you're talking, minimum. You have to go 4-1 while they go
Hmm.
1-4, and that's if you hold the tiebreaker. Anything other than that, they're good. So let's see. where that kind of goes. I guess you could say 0-5 and
Sure.
3-2, but that's pretty unlikely. But yeah, things are still kind of tight there in the Western Conference as the Warriors slide continues, as referenced before. And Nuggets and Mavs are playing pretty good. Jazz not playing so hot.
And the Jazz will get the Lakers tonight, but the Lakers will be still without LeBron James and Anthony Davis just for tonight's game, though. Okay, according to Shams Charania, Anthony Davis will return Friday against the Pelicans. We heard he was ramping things up, getting ready for a return. And according to Adrian Wojnarowski, LeBron James is also targeting a return on Friday. He's going to test his ankle out pregame and see where that's at. So the Lakers could have LeBron and AD back for Friday's game, but will not have them tonight against the Utah Jazz. So I think there's a pretty good chance, based on what we saw happen when the Lakers played the Mavs without LeBron and AD, pretty good chance the Jazz pick up a win tonight. But tomorrow, we could potentially see a closer to full strength Lakers squad.
And if you're the Jazz, you're going to be looking at this as they've got a 5-game losing streak. This is our chance right here to snap it. So I would assume Utah wins that, but then that still makes that Pelicans game pretty big. That the Lakers would fall 2 behind the Pelicans in that spot. They I believe the Spurs have the tiebreaker, correct? So the Spurs would again move back into 10th. So still a lot to be decided there. Somebody asked me the other day, like, could the Kings maybe get back in this thing? Nah, I don't see it. They're 5 games back in the loss column. It's just a matter of probably their next loss. I would imagine. I think at this point would eliminate them, but it's getting close. If not, so yeah, they're out. So it's really down to Pelicans, Lakers, Spurs the rest of the way here, and Pelicans have created a little distance on the Spurs in 11th at 2 games, so that starts to get a little tricky.
And the Pelicans, the Lakers do not have the tiebreaker over either team in that situation, so it'll be interesting to see how it all closes out. The Kings, they're not making a bubble Suns run or anything like that. Yeah. That's not gonna.
Well, and again, even if the Kings did, they've got 5 games left. They won all 5. You need these other teams to lose all of theirs the rest of the way, and that's not going to happen.
Johnny Davis declared for the draft. We're starting to see more and more college players who are declaring for the draft, and then we're going to start transitioning into some of our draft stuff. But just something to note, we're starting to see more of the top guys declare, and we'll start figuring out our draft boards and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah. On that, because some people asked us, or at least reached out and said, "Hey, what does that mean?" We're gonna have some people come on who are, know the draft better than we do. We've got some friends that we can reach out to help us understand a little bit better. But Johnny Davis, he's projected to be a high lottery pick, a top 10 pick coming out of Wisconsin. So we're not going to get into all of the guys who declare, but we'll get into at least the ones who are high end lottery picks and those kind of things, or notable names and things like that.
We also have a minor transaction here. The Cavs convert RJ Nembhard to a full deal. Moses Brown gets a 2-way contract. Moses Brown, with the endless arms, gets a 2-way deal to be a center for the future for the Cavs.
Why this is a little more interesting is the Cavs could have just given Moses Brown that spot instead of converting Nembhard and then putting Brown on a 2-way. It's fine for the next week and a half as we finish the regular season, but 2-way players are not eligible to play in the play-in nor the playoffs. So the challenge for Cleveland is, if you don't have Jared Allen back, you don't have, let's say Evan Mobley's not back or he's hobbled, what are you doing up front? Right? You're in trouble at that point. And then what does that ultimately become? And I think that's where that raised my eyebrow a little bit. Maybe they felt comfortable enough saying, all right, Allen and Mobley will be back. This could also be one of those things where, hey, we made a promise, we'd convert Nembhard, and this is where we're going to go. And if we really need to, we can open a roster spot for Brown if we had to go that direction. Who knows? But yeah, it's definitely interesting. For what seems like a fairly minor transaction at the end of the year, just because of the injury situation for Cleveland.
This is a good question for you. Is there a deadline for when a team has, I'm assuming there is, for when a team has to convert a 2-way player to a regular contract in order to make them playoff eligible?
Yeah, usually it's there's, well, let me rephrase. In January, there's usually a time in mid-January when that's the two-way signing deadline. And teams generally will do their conversions by that point, because you don't want to go without the spot, because then you can't fill that spot after that spot in mid-January. This year they changed it to be they're allowing it all the way through just to help with COVID if there was any more pop-ups. And we are still occasionally getting somebody entering the health and safety protocols every once in a while. It's not like what it was, thankfully, in December and January. But the other thing is you can always convert a guy right up until the last day of the regular season. You could convert a player then and get that. You would just at that point have the two-way spot empty. But if you're doing it then, you don't really care because you can't use the player at that point for the rest of the season. So, yeah, it could still happen. We could see a conversion still, with a roughly a week and a half-ish to go here.
Okay. I'm obviously, selfishly, I'm thinking of the Lakers with Wendy and Gabriel. If things turn around and it starts looking like maybe they do make the play, I was just saying, when do they have to have that done by? In terms, they would have to waive somebody and then give him that spot.
Yeah, officially by 3 p.m. on Monday, the 11th, is when postseason rosters have to be finalized. So generally teams do it by the last day of the season, which this year is Sunday the 10th. But yeah, by Monday, March 11th, 3 p.m. That's the end. You can't do any more changes to your playoff roster after that.
All right, lock it in. We talk about locking in rosters. Me and a few of my friends were already talking about World Cup roster and who should make the cut, who shouldn't, and all that kind of stuff. That's gonna be another aside. But another thing that we're gonna be digging into here over the next few months as we get ready to finally be back in the World Cup.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm psyched, man. I cannot wait. I have only a few bastions of irrational fandom left. And the U.S. men's national team is one of them. Actually, both the men and the women. My daughter's favorite team in the world is the U.S. women's team. So we spend we watch any game that we can that they're on TV and enjoy the whole thing. But it is but with them, sometimes it's not the most suspenseful. They might be teams, what was it, 13-0 or whatever it was in the last World Cup. But with the men, man, I believe before I pass from this earth, we will win a World Cup. Like, I truly believe it. We cannot have this many good athletes with the investment and resources we put into sports in this country that we will never compete and win a World Cup. But, we'll see. I mean, that's just, I'm probably dreaming a little bit there, but man, I passionately root those guys on. And this team's not bad.
No, they're not.
They're not bad. They're 15th ranked in the world as of today, because that's what's at the pot. So yeah, I am hoping when they pull the first name out to be in the group with Qatar, USA, right, is in that group, because then all of a sudden you start to feel like, all right, we got a shot now.
Let's go.
We might be able to advance out of the knockout round. Once you're in the knockout round,
anything can happen.
Anything goes.
Anything can happen. Yep, for sure. Yeah, I'm thrilled. In fact, maybe tomorrow I'll have to wear my U.S. jersey on the show.
There you go. There it is.
Our last thing, we got a Woj bomb about Woj.
Yeah.
Woj gets a new deal with ESPN. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be sticking around for a while now, staying with ESPN. We know he's jumped around a little bit, but it seems like he's landed here and he's going to be sticking with ESPN, breaking news for them, which means I guess we're going to get more interesting ways to spoil draft picks without technically spoiling draft picks.
Sure.
But
I mean, he backed off that a little bit last year. I think they were all like, forget it. If we're not all going to do it, then let's go. Right. But yeah, it's multi-years. They didn't say, how long. My guess is these things generally run 4 or 5 years with that. But yeah, it's this is pretty cool. For anybody who loves this stuff, when you have the best in the world of what they do on the biggest platforms, we all win, right? Because he'll continue to do what he does and continue to go. So yeah, this is good news.
Speaking of which, help us grow our platform. Make sure you do subscribe and turn on notifications right here, the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast version, make sure you leave us a review and a 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts. We certainly appreciate it. Spotify as well, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. We appreciate all the support that we've gotten from everybody as we've been building this and growing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can't thank you guys enough, for the reviews, the comments, everything. Let us know if you're watching Moon Knight. Let us know what you think about Moon Knight in the comments. Let us know where you think this show is going, because it's a really fun one. Let us know how you're feeling about the playoffs and all the things that are coming, and then we promise, as soon as teams are eliminated and all that, we're going to get full and off-season previews. We're going to be doing a lot of coverage throughout the playoffs of the actual playoff games. In series, we'll do our season-ending award predictions, all that stuff. We got all kinds of stuff planned here. You're going to be able to keep coming here on a pretty close to Monday through Friday basis with us and get all kinds of news. And we'll probably be hitting some weekend shows as need be throughout the playoffs and the like.
And when we get into even when we get into the off-season stuff like July, woo, that's when things are going to get busy.
No doubt.
It's going to be fun.
Probably some live shows working in there and stuff. Yeah.
For sure.
All sorts of fun.
Maybe some in-studio stuff in Las Vegas. Maybe.
Quite possibly.
We'll have to work that in. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.